Marcus Thompson never imagined that helping his son would lead him down such a dangerous path. The 52-year-old construction company owner lived a quiet life in suburban Atlanta, focused on his business and trying to maintain a relationship with his estranged son, Daniel. Everything changed on a rainy October evening when Daniel called him after 3 years of silence. Daniel's voice trembled through the phone as he explained his predicament. He had gotten involved with the wrong people while working at a casino in Las Vegas. A woman named Sofia Martinez, who worked as a dealer there, had witnessed something she shouldn't have seen. Now both their lives were in danger, and Daniel needed his father's help to protect her while he tried to sort things out with the dangerous men who were after them. Marcus drove through the night to meet Sofia at a small motel outside Nashville, where Daniel had arranged for her to hide. When he first saw her, she was nothing like what he expected. Sofia was a graceful woman in her early 30s, with worried brown eyes and trembling hands. She clutched a small bag containing all her possessions, having fled Las Vegas with only the clothes on her back. The plan was simple. Marcus would take Sofia to his cabin in the Tennessee mountains for a few days while Daniel dealt with the situation in Las Vegas. Sofia was hesitant to trust a stranger, but Daniel had assured her that his father was the most reliable person he knew, despite their complicated relationship. During the drive to the cabin, Sofia remained mostly silent, staring out the window at the dark highway. Marcus tried to make conversation, learning that she had moved to Las Vegas from Mexico 5 years ago, seeking a better life. She had been working double shifts at the casino to support her younger sister's education back home. The cabin sat isolated on 40 acres of wooded land, perfect for keeping someone hidden. Marcus had bought it years ago as a weekend retreat, a place to escape the pressures of running his business. He showed Sofia to the guest room and assured her she would be safe there. Days turned into weeks as they waited for word from Daniel. The calls became less frequent, and, when they did come, Daniel sounded increasingly stressed. He kept promising that everything would be resolved soon, but offered few details about what was actually happening. Living in such close quarters, Marcus and Sofia gradually began to open up to each other. She told him about her childhood in Guadalajara, her dreams of becoming a teacher before circumstances forced her to leave Mexico. He shared stories about raising Daniel as a single father after his wife passed away from cancer 15 years ago. Sofia proved to be excellent company. She cooked traditional Mexican dishes that filled the cabin with wonderful aromas, and they spent evenings playing cards or watching old movies on the ancient television. Marcus found himself looking forward to their conversations, to the way her face lit up when she laughed at his terrible jokes. One morning, about 3 weeks into their stay, Sofia collapsed in the kitchen. Marcus rushed her to the nearest hospital, his heart pounding with worry. After several tests, the doctor delivered shocking news that neither of them had expected. Sofia was pregnant, and not just with one baby, but 3. The ultrasound showed triplets, all developing normally despite the stress she had been under. The revelation left them both stunned. Through tears, Sofia admitted that she had been in a brief relationship with someone at the casino, but it had ended badly months ago. She had no idea she was pregnant and was terrified about what this meant for her future, especially while running from danger. Marcus held her hand in the hospital room, promising he wouldn't abandon her. Something had shifted between them during their time at the cabin, though neither had acknowledged it. The age difference seemed insignificant compared to the connection they had formed. When they returned to the cabin, the dynamic had changed. Marcus became protective in a way that went beyond his promise to Daniel. He made sure Sofia ate properly, accompanied her to prenatal appointments using fake names, and researched everything about multiple pregnancies. Daniel's calls had stopped completely. Marcus tried reaching him countless times, but the phone went straight to voicemail. Worry gnawed at him, but he couldn't leave Sofia alone to go searching for his son. One night, as they sat by the fireplace, Sofia broke down. She spoke about her fears of raising 3 children alone, of being an undocumented immigrant in hiding, of the men who might still be looking for her. Marcus found himself pulling her into his arms, and, suddenly, they were kissing. It was unexpected for both of them, yet it felt like the most natural thing in the world. They pulled apart, both apologizing, but the barrier between them had fallen. Over the following days, they stopped pretending that what was happening between them was merely friendship or circumstance. Marcus had fallen in love with this brave, resilient woman who had been thrust into his life so unexpectedly. Sophia admitted she felt the same, though she worried about the complications. The age difference, the circumstances of their meeting, the danger that still lurked somewhere beyond their mountain sanctuary, and, now 3 babies on the way. It seemed impossible, yet neither could deny their feelings. Marcus made a decision. He contacted his lawyer and began the process of legally protecting Sophia. He also hired a private investigator to find out what had happened to Daniel. The news, when it came, was devastating. The investigator discovered that Daniel had been killed in Las Vegas 2 weeks prior. The police report listed it as a mugging gone wrong, but the investigator suspected it was related to whatever Daniel had gotten involved in at the casino. Marcus was crushed by the loss of his son, despite their difficult relationship. He had always hoped they would have time to reconcile properly. Sophia held him as he grieved, their roles reversed as she became his source of comfort. She understood loss, having left her family behind in Mexico. Together, they mourned Daniel and the future that would never be. The investigator also brought concerning news. The men looking for Sophia were part of a money laundering operation at the casino. She had accidentally witnessed them moving large sums of cash through the casino's systems. They couldn't afford to let her testify if the authorities ever discovered their operation. Marcus knew they couldn't stay at the cabin forever. He made plans to relocate, to start fresh somewhere far from Tennessee and Las Vegas. He had resources from his construction business and could start over anywhere. The question was whether Sophia would come with him. On a cold December morning, with Sophia now showing her pregnancy, Marcus got down on one knee in the cabin's small kitchen. He presented her with his late wife's ring, which he had kept in a safety deposit box all these years. He told Sophia that he wanted to spend whatever years he had left loving her and raising their children together. Sophia cried as she said yes, understanding that this wasn't just a proposal of marriage but a promise of partnership against whatever challenges lay ahead. They were an unlikely pair brought together by tragic circumstances, but their love was real. Marcus sold his construction business quickly, accepting less than it was worth in exchange for a fast, quiet transaction. He liquidated most of his assets, converting them to forms that would be harder to trace. His lawyer helped create new identities that would allow them to start fresh. They left the cabin on a foggy January morning, Sophia now 5 months pregnant with the triplets. The car was loaded with only essential belongings and the cash they would need to establish their new life. Marcus had chosen a small coastal town in Maine, far from anyone who might be looking for them. The drive north was tense, both of them checking mirrors constantly for any signs they were being followed. They stopped only for gas and bathroom breaks, eating packed sandwiches in the car. Sophia struggled with the discomfort of traveling while pregnant with multiples, but she never complained. Halfway through Virginia, a black SUV appeared to be following them. Marcus's heart raced as he took several random exits, the vehicle staying with them each time. He pulled into a crowded truck stop, mixing with other travelers. They waited inside for an hour, Marcus watching through the window until the SUV finally left. Whether it had been the men from Las Vegas or just paranoia, they couldn't be sure. But it reinforced their need to be careful. They switched cars in Pennsylvania, Marcus having arranged to trade vehicles with someone from an online forum, no questions asked. By the time they reached Maine, snow was falling heavily. The small house Marcus had rented sight unseen was modest but perfect for their needs. It sat on a quiet street where neighbors minded their own business, close enough to the hospital for when the triplets arrived. They settled into their new life as Mark and Sarah Johnson, a couple who had moved from the Midwest for Mark's early retirement. Sophia worked on perfecting her Midwestern accent while Marcus grew a beard to change his appearance. They kept to themselves mostly, friendly but not overly social with neighbors. The pregnancy progressed with increasing difficulty. Carrying triplets put enormous strain on Sophia's body, and, by the 7th month, she was on bed rest. Marcus became her full-time caregiver, cooking, cleaning, and managing all the preparations for 3 babies. They turned the spare bedroom into a nursery, painting it a cheerful yellow since they had decided not to find out the babies' genders. 3 cribs lined one wall, with a changing station and rocking chair completing the room. It was during these quiet preparation days that they truly became a family. Sophia went into labor 3 weeks early on a stormy April night. Marcus drove carefully through the rain to the hospital, Sophia gripping his hand through contractions. The delivery required a cesarean section, and Marcus was there in the operating room, holding Sophia's hand as their children entered the world. First came a boy, small but with a strong cry. Then, 2 girls, identical twins who were even tinier than their brother. All 3 were whisked away to the neonatal intensive care unit, but the doctors assured them that was normal for triplets born at 34 weeks. Marcus stayed by Sophia's side as she recovered, then, together they spent hours in the NICU, learning to feed and care for their tiny babies. They named them Daniel, after Marcus's son, and Elena and Rosa, after Sophia's grandmothers. The first weeks at home were a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and precious little sleep. They worked as a team, Marcus taking the night shift so Sophia could rest and recover from the surgery. The babies thrived, gaining weight and growing stronger each day. One evening, as they sat exhausted on the couch with all 3 babies finally asleep, Sophia asked Marcus if he regretted how their life had turned out. He looked at his young wife, at the toys scattered across their living room floor, at the baby monitors showing 3 peaceful faces, and told her honestly that despite the tragedy that brought them together, he had never been happier. They had lost Daniel, left behind their old lives, and were living under assumed names in a town where they knew no one. But they had each other and their 3 miracles. Love had found them in the most unexpected way. As spring turned to summer, they began to relax slightly. No mysterious vehicles appeared, no strange phone calls came. They started to believe they might actually be safe. Sophia obtained her GED and began online courses to finally pursue her dream of becoming a teacher. Marcus found purpose in being a father again, this time able to be present in a way his business had prevented with Daniel. The triplets grew rapidly, each developing their own personality. Daniel was the quiet observer, Elena the adventurous one always trying to crawl into trouble, and Rosa the charmer who smiled at everyone. Watching them together, Marcus sometimes felt Daniel's presence, as if his son had somehow orchestrated this second chance at family. On their first wedding anniversary, celebrated quietly at home with 3 one-year-olds creating happy chaos around them, Marcus and Sophia exchanged new rings they had bought at a local jeweler. Simple bands that symbolized not just their marriage but their commitment to the life they had built from the ashes of tragedy. Sophia had contacted her sister in Mexico through a secure email service, letting her know she was safe but unable to return home. It pained her to be separated from her family, but she knew the danger to them all if she surfaced. Her sister understood, promising to continue her education with the money Sophia still sent monthly through complicated transfers. Marcus had made peace with his losses, the son he couldn't save and the business he had spent decades building. In their place, he had gained something more precious, a second chance at love and fatherhood. He documented everything in journals, hoping someday the children could know their full story. As autumn arrived in Maine, painting the trees in brilliant colors, the Johnson family had truly taken root in their community. They attended the local harvest festival, the triplets dressed as tiny pumpkins in a wagon Marcus pulled. Neighbors stopped to coo over the babies, and, for those moments, they were just another family enjoying a beautiful day. The danger that had driven them to this life seemed like a distant nightmare. They remained vigilant, still checking locks twice and noting unfamiliar faces, but fear no longer dominated their days. They had built something beautiful from the ruins of their former lives. Marcus often thought about Daniel, wondering if his son had known the gift he was giving when he asked his father to protect Sophia. In trying to save her, Daniel had saved Marcus too, from a lonely future in an empty house. The triplets carried on Daniel's legacy in a way no one could have imagined. On quiet nights, after the children were asleep, Marcus and Sophia would sit on their porch, holding hands and planning their future. They talked about eventually moving somewhere they could use their real names again, maybe when the children were older and the danger had passed completely. Or perhaps they would remain the Johnsons forever, a family forged in crisis but sustained by love. Sophia had grown confident in her new life, her English now flawless, her fear replaced by determination. She spoke to the triplets in both English and Spanish, wanting them to know both parts of their heritage. Marcus learned Spanish too, stumbling over pronunciations in a way that made the babies giggle. They had created their own traditions, Taco Tuesdays that reminded Sophia of home, Sunday drives along the coast that reminded Marcus of trips with young Daniel, and bedtime stories told in 2 languages. The house that had seemed so modest when they arrived now overflowed with toys, laughter, and love. As the first snow of their second Maine winter began to fall, Marcus watched from the window as Sophia played with the toddlers in the yard, helping them build their first snowman. Their shrieks of delight carried on the cold air, and he felt a contentment he had never expected to find again. The journey from that first panicked phone call from Daniel to this moment of domestic peace seemed impossible. They had traveled from fear to safety, from strangers to family, from loss to abundance. The man who had stepped in to help his son had found himself transformed by love and fatherhood in ways he never could have imagined. The danger might still lurk somewhere in their past, but it no longer defined their future. They had built something stronger than fear, a family bound not by blood alone but by choice, sacrifice, and devotion. Marcus Thompson had become Mark Johnson, but, more importantly, he had become the husband and father he was meant to be. As he joined his family in the snow, lifting Rosa onto his shoulders while Sophia helped Daniel and Elena pack snowballs, Marcus knew that every risk had been worth it. They had lost much but gained everything. In the end, love had led them home, not to a place but to each other, and that was the greatest adventure of all.